Today, we are going to start with a conversation with Rodrigo Baer from Redpoint Eventures in Brazil. Rodrigo, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's get acquainted and introduce you to our audience. Tell us a bit about your background and also about the Redpoint Eventures initiative in Brazil.
Sure. I started my career as a founder. Within a large corporation, we set up a different business unit. That didn't really work, so we wound it down and spun it off to the company. They took over after. After that, I spent a long while doing consulting. Figured that I loved to give people advice on their business, not as much changing the clients all the time and not following up with their growth. So I thought venture actually made a lot of sense, joining the advice and the support role of a consultant with my entrepreneurial background, and then adding on top of that, being able to follow up and see the effects of what we're building together. So I went to the States to do my MBA, did a venture over there, and then decided to come back to Brazil in 2007, and basically there was no industry. So I went back to consulting for a few years, spent 4 years at McKinsey. In parallel, we set up a venture fund with friends, did a bunch of investments. Had to run one of those, one of my first initial mistakes, investing on a founder that wasn't fully committed, sold that business, and then went back to McKinsey while we raised our second fund, which was a very small fund. We did 6 investments out of that fund, and one went on to become a $4 billion business. So we had a very good history to tell. But the partners had different visions on what they wanted to do. One wanted to do corporate venture, the other one wanted to do late stage investing, and I wanted to stay in early stage, so I left. Spent about a year working on raising a new fund and talking to a bunch of people. In that process, I came to talk to one of the managing partners at Redpoint, and it was a fun conversation to say, like, so what do you want to have in your fund? And it's like, I made this long list, and they were like, yeah, I can check all those boxes, and I have a fund already raised. They want to join, and I've been here for 6 years. It's been an awesome ride. I came in about a year after the fund was raised. Over the past 6 years, we invested our first fund, which was $130 million, into 35 companies. We have 2 unicorns out of that, probably a few more on the making. And then we just raised our second fund, which is a little over our target of 175. We have already made 12 investments out of that fund. Hopefully it will perform as well as the first one. We like the founders we're backing, but only time will tell, right? And in parallel, when Anderson, who is our managing partner here, took on the role to create Redpoint Eventures in Brazil, he was asked by the founders of Redpoint Eventures not only to help create the leading venture capital firm in Brazil, but also create a healthy ecosystem, right? There's no point on being the largest or the best fund in a non-existent market. So this is something that we all bring in the firm, the idea that we have to help build the ecosystem. And in that sense, we actually went on and built something fairly large. We joined forces with Brazil's largest bank and created, it's a weird concept. It's co-working space mashed up with a lot of commercial development and biz dev for startups, which is today the second largest hub for startups in the world. We have 127 residents on the building, which hosts 1,600 people. We do 40,000 people a month in events. And then we have another 400 companies that are connected through us through our digital platforms. So that's a little bit of Google.
Sao Paulo?
Yeah, this is all happening in Sao Paulo.
So you are based out of Sao Paulo at this point?
Yes, we are.
So,
That's the big economic hub in Brazil, right? So
yeah.
we're here.
Let's talk a bit more in detail about the Redpoint eVentures platform.
Sure.
So firstly, all investments are happening in Brazil, correct? Or is it all of Latin America?
We have a Latin American mandate.
Okay.
We've done one investment in outside of Brazil in the first fund, and we were very lucky because we did the seed investment in Rappi, which is now a $3.6 billion business. We are going to be more proactive now on the second fund. So I'm the one actually in charge of going out and scouting other Latin American markets. Mm-hmm. But we're still learning the ropes. Brazil, we understand very well. We have the connections to support Latin America. We still have to figure that out.
Okay. And in terms of stage, you said your fund is about 175 million. What is your stage preference?
We were designed to be a Series A fund, right? And that's our bread and butter. But we take the liberty of doing seeds and Series Bs. So we've done checks anyway from starting checks, right, from $35,000 to $8 million. But where we're normally comfortable is products with a product market fit, companies with product market fit that actually need money to accelerate, where we'll put in $1 to $5 million on a Series A. And
do you have enough of an ecosystem in Brazil at this point that can do the earlier stage, since you're designed to be a Series A fund, even though you're doing some amount of seed work? I presume that you need a set of feeder funds in the ecosystem from which to draw from. So what is the current status of your ecosystem?
Well, we have a lot of angels that are normally not very tech savvy. They are normally rich people that are writing checks, but that's capital flow that founders can access, right? We have a few seed stage funds that provide a decent pipeline, but we don't see scarcity actually. And what we've seen is now a big shift that's happening in our ecosystem, is that we're now having the exits of the first vintage of startups. Remember, this is an ecosystem that I was the second fund in 2010.
Yep.
So companies were invested in 11, 12, 13, 14. They're now at the point where they can exit. And this is freeing up a lot of first capital. Right, these founders are now becoming angels on earlier startups, and they are also coming back and doing for the second time, which increases a lot the speed and the level of success when they succeed. So we're excited about what's coming.
So the other point that you have not made, but I'm kind of reading between the lines and drawing my own conclusions based on my experience, is that you must be having a lot of bootstrapped ventures that are going straight into Series A and not doing a seed round.
No, they will typically come in and have already a seed round. It's just not normally a seed fund. They'll get money from friends and family or from angels. We have about 10,000 angels in Brazil that actively write checks.
Okay.
And that provide the capital to get Series A. Okay. Very few founders can go directly to Series A.
Okay. Now, what about sectors? Do you do B2B and B2C, and what are your segment preferences? What trends do you like to invest in?
As a firm, we are agnostic, especially because we feel that the Brazilian market is still fairly small. If we go sector specific, we're probably going to be under diversified, or letting in founders that are not up to the bar, right? So we like to keep our mandate as open as possible, right? We've done a lot of B2C, we've done a lot of B2B. Probably we have the largest SaaS portfolio in the country. And I particularly like SaaS companies, so that's something we're very active in, we understand very well. Sector-wise, there are problems that we identify in the market that we know needs to get solved. But what we are proactive in scouting out solutions for them. But pipeline-wise, what we see is that this is very founder-driven. So there was a big wave of fintechs up to a year ago. You could see a lot of companies coming up. Now the leaders in the market have already gotten funded and are starting to pull ahead. So we see a cool down on fintech side. A lot of things happening on fintech infrastructure. So also a lot of things happening on real estate and property in Brazil, and health, right? Those are sectors that have a lot of activity, but not necessarily the only things we're going to look at. We are now doing deals in the legal system in Brazil, right? How do I do online mediation and arbitration? We're doing deals in retail. So we are fairly agnostic about it. And as long as the problem is big enough, we'll look at it.
Okay. Now, you, in the course of your introduction, you talked about 2 or 3 unicorns that have come out of your previous funds and so forth. Could you double click down and talk about what they are, what problems have they solved, and what kind of, how did you find these companies? How did they find the kind of traction that they did, and why have they been successful? What have you learned from those?
Sure. The one I did in my previous fund is called iFood, which is basically Grubhub for Latin America. I got to know the company because my brother was one of the founders, so that made life easy. No, but they were in an interesting position. They had a previous business that was food ordering through phone, which never scaled, and then they put up the site, and all of a sudden, in 2 months, 25% of the orders are coming from the site. And differently from the U.S., they came up with a very interesting tech solutions, right? In Brazil, normally a restaurant has one computer, right? And that's the cashier. So if you're sending an order to the computer, the cashier is getting this, but he's in the middle of actually closing checks and making the calculations and make sure he receives all the money. So you will never get a response to that, right? Yeah. You would send in the order and never show. What they did is they actually hacked a credit card POS, and they changed the system. Very, very interesting technically what they did. But what they created was a machine that could receive orders inside the kitchen. So you would send the restaurant the order, and the machine would start beeping in the kitchen and putting out the order, and the restaurant would accept. And that changed the whole game, right? Because now I bypassed the bottleneck, which was the restaurant. And then the second thing that they did that was fairly interesting, they moved to the mobile much sooner than their peers abroad. And that gave them very good leadership in the market. They have now 95% of the food delivery market in Brazil. And that enabled them to go out and buy their shares in Mexico and then Colombia. And now they basically own food delivery in Latin America. It's a very cool company. Then the second company is called Gympass. Gympass, actually, the founder studied with my brother, so that's a very good class at school. But he started doing, problem is simple, right? You pay for 6 months of gyms, and you normally go for 3 weeks, and then the gym takes hold of the remaining 5 months. And he was like, this is not fair. I'm going to solve that problem. And he started selling day passes for gyms, which was something that wasn't available in Brazil at the time. Fairly quickly, one of his clients actually went to the HR department of his company and said, look, you're paying for this gym that's in the building. I don't want to do it. I want you to pay for this service because I want to do the gym close to my house. And all of a sudden, they landed a 7,000 clients contract with one company. And they said, screw the B2C, let's go to the B2B model. That company is now in 17 different countries, just raised a $300 million round from SoftBank, and it's just starting operations in the U.S. It's called Gympass. Okay. And then the third one is Rappi. Rappi resembles a lot what Postmates does. Basically, order anything on an app. But differently from the U.S., here you can actually order anything. You can order food, you can order your groceries, you can order somebody to pick up jewelry for you, whatever you want, they'll deliver. And that's a company that we did the seed. The Series A was led by Andreessen and Sequoia. And now they just raised $1 billion round from SoftBank. And if you look at the streets, I can't show you because I would have to turn the camera. But there are like hundreds of delivery guys out in the street wearing orange, which their color. So.
But in the emerging markets, the delivery services are really taking a very important role because these are very congested cities, and people really don't want to go out and do all the running around. So and labor is very cheap. So it seems like this is a trend that is really taking off.
I think the salary arbitrage plays a very big role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
and
talk
the cities
a little
are
bit
dense,
about.
right?
Pardon?
And the cities are dense. If you're in suburban United States, you can't make that work.
Right. So talk a little bit about what's in the pipeline, younger companies. These are, of course, mature companies that have already found their stride. Talk about younger companies. What's exciting in your portfolio? A couple of examples of companies that you think they are really interesting and they're doing something really cool.
Sure. There is one company that a few of them. One is a mid-stage company. Just raised a $50 million round. It's called Olis. What they do is they take small merchants and they put them under one umbrella to sell into large marketplaces, right? So from the marketplace perspective, it's one store. It's normally the largest store in all the marketplaces with a very high level of service. But at the end of the day, they hold no inventory. They have today 8,000 merchants that actually fulfill those orders and deliver. And from the merchant's perspective, I'm simplifying the hassle of having to run the systems on Amazon and then on Target and then on Walmart and having to manage all this complexity of 5 different systems. Actually, that's what Olis solves for them. So that's a company we really like.
So the thesis is that this particular company is positioned as a power seller in all of these marketplaces with great reviews, and as a result, they have better SEO and so forth, and they are consolidating. They're kind of like an intermediary that's consolidating 8,000 merchants.
Yeah, and they have the sophistication, right? So they run extensive analysis. If I change pricing here, what happens to the sale? And they advise the merchants on how to better sell in the marketplaces.
It's a very cool idea.
yeah, fairly complex to run. It's a complex business to
complexity
run.
is what creates the defensibility, right?
Yeah, so that's one we love. Another one is a company called Pipefly. I don't know if you've seen them, but what they did is they take the layer of workflow management out of the ERP.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they give it to the business person. So the business person can go in and create their workflows, any process, recruiting, hiring, onboarding, purchasing, whatever you want to create that's a repetitive process. You very quickly, it takes less than 15 minutes. You create the workflow in Pipefly, and you deploy it and you start running it. And you get all the metrics, you get all the data recorded. That's a company, it's a pure SaaS company. It has clients in 192 countries. Guys from GE and Uber to the very small startup that doesn't want to create their own ERP. Mm-hmm. That's a company I really like too. Cool. And then we have less obvious companies, well, less visible. And when I give it a pitch, you're going to see how obvious it is, right? 80% of all financial transactions in the world still run on a COBOL on a mainframe, right? And financial institutions actually spend $272 billion a year maintaining the legacy. So what this company is doing, they are redesigning all the core of a financial transaction on a modern platform. It's the part that you never see in a transaction. It's the back end processing capability. And then the last one.
Customers are banks or customers are all kinds of financial institutions? Banks, okay.
Anyone could be, right? If you want to create your fintech, you can use it. But the system is so robust and so flexible that you need a lot of coding power on the other side. And normally the banks are the ones that are feeling the pinch right now. So we've seen very large banks, 60 million plus clients starting using the software.
Rodrigo, how many startups are operating in Brazil right now?
That's a very good question. I got no idea. We hear numbers between 5 and 10. We look at 2,200 companies a year. Mm-hmm. So I would venture that it's way more than 5. Unsure if it's a lot more than 10. Okay.
And what about Latin America?
The rest of Latin America is much earlier in the process, right? Mm-hmm. I think what we see happening in the Brazilian market now, where we have the whole chain of financing, right, from seed to the $5 billion SoftBank fund, actually is a consequence of 2010, 11, 12, where we had 3 or 4 larger funds created, right? Mm-hmm. We had Redpoint, we had Monashis, we had Kazakh, each with $100 and something million to invest, which enables us to create companies at a faster pace. And we haven't seen that happening yet in Latin America. Argentina basically has no fund. There are very small funds, right? They're all $20 million funds, which puts them in a position that they are sub-diversified, so they can take the risk, right? And they can tell the founder to go and grow as much as he can because he doesn't know that there will be a next check. So the guy always grows with a feet on the brake, right? Because he needs to be able to break even. And that slows down the company development. In Mexico, the funds are also relatively smaller. And then Colombia has no funds. Everybody's servicing it from abroad. So I guess we are now at a stage where those other markets have enough founders that would justify large funds in it. It's time somebody goes out and creates a few $100 million funds in Colombia, a few $100 million funds in Mexico and Argentina, and then 5 years down the road, we're going to see what's happening in Brazil, happening in those markets. But they're much earlier in the process.
It's ironical because Argentina produced one of the most successful companies, the earliest in the cycle.
Yes, they did. Despite how much we Brazilians don't like to talk about it, yeah, they did. They were very successful very early in the cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wonderful. It looks like the Brazilian ecosystem has made a lot of progress. We've had others from your part of the world from time to time, so it's good to catch up, good to see progress. We try to keep our finger on the different parts of the world and how the ecosystems are coming along. And it's really wonderful right now how many ecosystems have made how much progress. So I think it's just a matter of time that other parts of Latin America will also catch up. So thank you for sharing your perspective. Yeah, go ahead.
I think people realize that innovation is not going to be when technology investment and innovation moved away from being tech for tech, right? Up to 2000, it was tech for tech, and that's going to get developed in China, Israel, maybe Germany, and the Valley, and that's it, right? When we take tech and apply to the real world, our problems, the problems of the developing markets are much larger, and then you create indigenous companies that can really have an impact. And yeah. I think that's the biggest shift that happened.
Well, the shift is also that the entrepreneurial mindset has started to develop in these emerging economies, right? I mean, when I lived in India in the 80s, I left India in 89 to come to college in the US. I mean, people were not thinking of being entrepreneurs. That was a very rare mindset. And now everybody, I mean, there's like vast numbers of entrepreneurially oriented people in the ecosystem.
It's the new rock band.
Yeah.
Well, when we were kids, the cool thing was to have a rock band.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. We'll keep in touch.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, guys. It's a pity I won't get to see your pitch.